and marriage, love and marriage.
Hello, my name is Robbie. On here, I'm Templar Knight. Every person who believes in God but does not go to church has a story why. But it's said that whenever two or more gather in God's name, that He is there. So this is church. Welcome. I'm glad you're here. Tonight we are continuing our series on a faith-driven marriage, Bliss After the Bells. And this week was a lesson that I was struggling with to get the nerve to do. But thankfully, with God throwing my little brother into my path who studied this stuff, it is time to talk about communications. Now, for me, communications was a difficult topic because I don't words good. Communication was something that I did not feel qualified for. But my little brother, he went to college where he studied interpersonal communications. Apparently that's a college course. And when I mentioned that I was doing this, he says, you got to check this thing out. It was by this guy's name's Dr. John Gotham, and it's called the Four Horsemen of the Communication Apocalypse. And I'm like, okay. So I looked into it. This dude, he runs this whole research center where they study things like this. They literally would bring couples in to watch them argue, watch them discuss, watch them interact, and study this. And he came up with what he called the Four Horsemen. And the more I looked into it, I'm like, okay. So for the first part of this lesson, I'm going to tell you what I learned from this guy. And if you want more information, by all means, I've got links galore. Hit me up. I can connect you through with the Gottman Institute. Oh, words are going to be a hard one tonight. Okay. I can connect you up with the sources that I found this from. And then once I finish up with Four Horsemen, I'm going to kind of switch over to my experiences and my thoughts. So, Dr. John Gotham came up with his Four Horsemen. And the first one he came up with was criticism. Now, criticism it's basically an attack on the person, not their behavior. It's putting someone down saying, hey, why didn't you do this? God, that's so dumb. Why would you think that? It's just negative comments directed to essentially break someone down. The second horseman is contempt. Now, contempt it's a little harder to find. It's basically a way of making yourself feel superior. It's disrespecting someone, mocking them, being sarcastic. Or my personal favorite, the rolling of the eyes, just a sign of, yeah, whatever. Contempt was the second horseman. His third horseman that he wrote of was defensiveness. Okay, well, I screwed up, and they're coming after me for it, so I'm going to put up my shield, and it's like, well, you know what, well, I only did that because I did that because this, and you're so busy trying to defend yourself that you're not willing to accept responsibility for what you done did. And the fourth one, this one hit me because this one's mine. The fourth horseman is stonewalling. And what I mean by that is just shutting down in a conversation, just building walls around yourself so you do not have to address it. Just, nope, I'm done. Fine, whatever. And just removing yourself from the situation. I do that. That is not so much in my marriage, but at work, with friends. If I find myself in a conversation that I don't feel comfortable in, I put up the walls and I shut down and I just mentally remove myself from the situation. Those are the 4 negative end of days signs of communication. Thankfully, the smart doctor and his institute with all of his studies came up with solutions. Now that's what I want to focus on. And I was really interested to see these. I ended up having to watch a handful of videos on YouTube and go a little deeper into this because I liked seeing this put into place. Now, criticism. Instead of criticizing someone, saying, hey, you don't do this. You need to take out the trash. I'm going to fall in the trash can a lot because that is one of the biggest issues we have in my house. I'm responsible for taking out the garbage. But a year ago, we got a new garbage can, and it's smaller than the old one, which means I have to take it out more. And I struggle with that. It's also a problem because my sniffer doesn't work. And my wife's sniffer works on overtime. So she smells the trash when it needs to go out long before I do. So, we're going to talk about the trash. Criticism. You need to take out the trash. Can't you smell that? Why aren't you taking out the trash? To combat criticism, instead of pointing out the other person and what they're doing, talk about yourself. Use I statements, is what they say. Use I statements instead of you. You need to take out the trash. No. Hey, I would really appreciate it if we could get the trash taken out sometime. I would really like it if I didn't have to smell that. Make it about yourself and your needs. Talk about the situation. Don't go after the person. Makes sense. It's a lot less threatening. I have this problem. Can you assist me with it? The second horseman, contempt. How to cut that era of I'm better than you. They had a really unique test that I loved seeing put into motion because I thought it was so corny and just silly watching it being put into practice. But they focused on saying thank you and appreciating the small things. They actually had a rule. They call it the 5-to-1. Before you can say something negative about someone, you have to tell them 5 things positive first. Hey, honey, I'm glad you did the dishes. I appreciate that you can keep your area clean. Thanks for keeping tabs on your laundry. I'm glad that you're not out spending a whole bunch of money. Thanks for shoveling the driveway. I would really appreciate it if you take out the trash. Okay, it's kind of the spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. Hit them with some nice comments before you got hit with something that is a little negative. Might be, meh. You know, it's funny to think about doing that, but there's a lot in that. If you can compliment someone a few times before addressing something you'd like them to do in a negative way, it's going to help. Now for the third horseman, defensiveness. When you're busy being defensive, you're not accepting responsibility. My wife comes up, hey, take out the trash. Well, you know, it's not even that full yet. Yes, but you threw shrimp away the other day, and now the whole house stinks. Take out the trash. But it's not even full. I don't even smell it. Why is this a problem? I'm not accepting that I need to take out the trash because I threw seafood away, and now the whole house reeks. I just can't smell it. I'm transferring blame. I'm saying, you take out the trash. I'm just trying to transfer it back to her by being defensive. That's not working towards a solution. That's me just trying to cover my own back. And the fourth one, the stonewalling. How many of you have ever had a disagreement, a slight argument with someone, and you finally just said, fine, whatever, and just want it out? Me? I do not do well with hostile conversations. This is much more prevalent for me at the workspace than it is at home because me and my wife, we just fight about the trash. But if I feel like I'm getting overwhelmed by it, if I'm getting frustrated and I feel anger building up, I shut down. I don't want to talk about this anymore. Can we just move on? Anyone heard those phrases before? So here's what I need to work on. And I didn't know this was an option, but it makes sense now that it is. If I'm struggling in a conversation and I want to lock up and build up these walls and just isolate myself from the situation, I'm allowed to call a timeout. In the middle of an argument, in a heated conversation, say, hey, can we take 15 minutes here? I need a break. I'm allowed to do that. I didn't know. I didn't think that was in the rules. But it is. You are allowed to call for a break. If you're having an argument with someone and you feel like it's no longer being productive, take a time out. Go to your separate corners, but instead of just sitting there and festering on what's going on and preparing your side again, release your mind for a minute. Play a video game, read a book, do something to take your thoughts away, listen to some music. Remove your mind from that anger, that train of thought that was just locking you up. And once you've kind of released that tension, go back to the conversation calmly, rationally. Work towards a solution. So, straight from Dr. John Gottman, words, the Four Horsemen. I hope I did a good enough job explaining it. If not, if any of that piques your interest, let me know. I'll get you the sources. I will connect you up with that guy's website and all of his YouTube videos. There's some good stuff to learn there. Now I'm going to go into my key points of communication, because despite how much I struggle with words, sometimes I can be good with words. And a lot of this is stuff that I learned from smarter and better men than me, and I've just adapted it and made it my own and morphed it a little bit. But one of the best phrases I ever heard when it comes to communication: do not talk to attack. Now, what I mean by that is that old phrase, sticks and stones break bones, but words can never hurt me. That's wrong. That's very wrong. Words can hurt. And it's not just about what you say, it's about how you say it. The other week we were talking honor and respect, about how men were like puppy dogs. You got to train us how to respond. And how you speak to us, the tone of your voice, matters. Now that goes both ways. What you're saying is important, but how you're saying it also matters. Are you saying something with the intent of hurting them? because they screwed up? Do you just want to be spiteful and make them feel bad because they made a mistake? Why are you attacking them? They already done goofed. It is possible to correct someone without hurting them, without using a tone of voice designed to break them down. Sorry, still fighting the sickness a little bit from last week. Another key thing that I've learned: you don't always have to win every argument. Even if you're right, you don't have to win. It's okay just to say, I don't want to argue about this. I don't want to fight about this. And just know inside, I was right. They were wrong. But it's not worth fighting over. I don't need them to acknowledge that. They don't have to say I'm right. I don't have to win this argument. The scariest part about that is sometimes the longer we're with someone, the more we're around someone, we almost develop habits of being disrespectful to each other. And it's scary because it starts small. A little insult here, a little quip here, a smart remark. And then it grows to something more condescending and hurtful, to where eventually it just gets out of control. And you don't know how to stop it because you didn't nip it in the bud when it started. I have 2 little brothers. And if there was one thing that they learned from me, was what was acceptable behavior and what was not. Because when they were kids, when they did something wrong, I stopped it right away and made it clear, not acceptable. And they learned quickly, oh, that's not acceptable. There was no, well, let's start here and aggress and aggress and aggress. Okay, now this isn't acceptable. Okay, we got to go back down one level. No, right away, it was nipped in the bud because I wasn't going to tolerate it. I was a very large part of the disciplinary factor in my house growing up. Both those boys joined the army. Gee, I wonder why. But sometimes we have to do that with our spouses, with our significant others, with our friends and our coworkers. Someone makes a joke that isn't acceptable, you have to let them know, hey, I don't want to be rude here, but that kind of behavior is not going to be allowed. That's not what we're doing. Probably the most important thing that I can teach you about marriage is that you're not alone in it. Now, I don't just mean you and your spouse. You stood before God. You promised Him that you would take care of each other, you would honor and respect each other, you would cherish each other. He's in this too. Let Him be a part of it. Know what I mean by that? Who here has a sibling that they grew up with? How different were the disputes with your siblings when mom and dad were around? Oh, bless it. I bet every single one of us has a story of a fight, an altercation that we got in with our siblings that was a much different story when we had to relate that to mom and dad. Or mom and dad walk in the room. And all of a sudden, it is much different. Now, I'm sure you guys already see the connection I'm making here. How many of you have had arguments, disputes with your spouse that you probably wouldn't have if Jesus had walked in your front door and been like, "Hey guys, how's it going? I'm here for supper. What's on the table?" If Jesus was standing there, would those arguments have gone a little bit differently? If God himself walks in your front door and says, "Hey, what y'all talking about?" "We're struggling with finances." "Oh, can I help?" Sure. God walks in the door. "Hey, what's going on?" "He won't take out the trash." Tried asking him. "Yes, but he doesn't want to listen." I'm willing to bet both parties would act a lot differently if Jesus was there. So have Jesus there. Invite him into your house. Invite him into your home. Invite him to be a part of your relationship. And take it upon yourself that when you are speaking, when you're in communications and things start getting a little tense, remember that he is there and he's watching you. This marriage that he blessed, let him take part just with his presence. Treat your wife like God is looking right over her shoulder. Treat your husband like God's standing right behind him. Let God be that buffer zone to de-escalate things. Because if there's one thing that I learned in anger management, when you're upset, when you're mad, you're not in control of you anymore. Your temper is. And your temper will say things that you normally wouldn't. Your anger will do things that you normally wouldn't. And it is so important to keep that under control. It says in the Bible, Proverbs 15 verse 1, gentle responses defuse anger, but a sharp tongue kindles a temper fire. That hit homes for me. Hi, my name's Robbie. I have an uncontrollable temper. I've been clean for 10 years. But that does not mean my anger is gone. And if I speak out of anger, I know what angry Robbie can do. I know what he's capable of. Not the story I wanted to go into, but it fits. The last time I struck someone in anger, I was a teenager. I had 2 little brothers, maybe 8 and 10 years old, and we were sword fighting, because that's what you do. And we had plastic swords, not like padded. These were hard. And one of my brothers snuck up behind me and nailed me in the back as hard as he could. And it hurt. And I got mad. And I lost my temper. And I turned and I chased him as fast as his little legs could go. Maybe 5 strides and I was on him. And I struck him hard with this plastic sword. And I hurt him. And I remember my mother yelling up the stairs because she heard the commotion. She heard the moment it went from brothers playfully battling each other to anger. And as soon as I had hurt him, I realized what I had done. And I got control of myself again. But I will never forget the look on his face as he ran from me in fear. Because of the monster that I was at that time, when I let my anger and my temper take control. I'll never forget that. It will always be in my mind whenever I start to get upset, whenever I start to get angry. This young boy who I was responsible for, to teach, to raise, to grow, to care for. For those few seconds, he was afraid of me. Not because of me, but because of my anger and my temper. I did something I wouldn't have normally done because I was not in control. So we tone this down a little bit. When we're upset, when we're frustrated, when we're angry, our words can hurt. Our words can do damage. Our words can leave emotional scars that will stick with you for decades. So it is important not to attack each other with our words. Final thing I wanted to talk about. This goes for marriage as well as friendships, any relationships, any person you communicate with. Breaking someone else down does not make you stand any taller. But building up those around you makes everyone grow. I learned that phrase at work because there was a guy who constantly felt that if he belittled everyone else, it would make him seem like, oh, he's the best, he's the goodest, he's better than everyone else. Because he had flaws on everyone that he would gladly point out. But breaking people around you doesn't make you stand taller. But if you can build up those around you, your coworkers, build them up as a team, your spouse, your friends, if you can build each other up, you will grow together. You will build something stronger and more powerful than you could have ever done alone. So if we were to focus on using our communication positively, staying away from criticism, from showing contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling, if we could communicate and show God's love, invite Him to be a part of our conversations, be a part of the way we treat each other, we're going to build something. We're going to grow. I wish I had some really great exit for this. Something really inspiring. Apparently I'm struggling to communicate tonight. Let God be a part of your communications. Let God be with you. Make Him a part of things. Ask yourself, God was here right now? Would I still be saying this? Would I still be talking like this? Would I still be acting this way? And if not, maybe you should evaluate what you're saying and how you're saying it. Let's try and make God proud of the way we communicate.
Love and marriage, love and marriage.